Welcome to Now You're Talking, where we dive into the conversations that matter most in our homes, workplace, and communities. In this episode, I sit down with Davies, a trailblazer who embraced technology early in her career and mastered the art of adapting leadership to meet the needs of her team. Diana opens up about raising two sons in today's fast-moving digital world, sharing honest reflections on how technology has reshaped family dynamics and communication. Together, we explore the importance of face-to-face connection, the lessons learned from generational shifts in tech use, and how we can model mindful digital behavior for the next generation. Whether you're a parent, a leader, or navigating the digital age, Diana's wisdom offers a refreshing reminder that real connection is always worth the effort. Follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Let the conversations begin. Now you're talking. Diana, thank you very much for meeting today.
It's a
I've
pleasure.
known, thanks. I've known you for between 15 and 18 years.
Is that all?
Yes. know, all leading to this moment. You've got such an interesting background because you're a mom, you've been a leader in the digital world, and you've lived through that whole transition of the digital awakening.
Mm.
How are you navigating personally? How are you navigating? And then maybe talk about how the people in your life are navigating the digital era.
That's an interesting question. And I'll go back to the first time I actually got a computer. I just got my job in media. I started in that industry in my late 30s. And there was two computers that 15 people shared. So I bought a laptop. And then the laptop was $5,000, which is
Boy,
incredible because, you get a Mac now and they're nowhere near 2,000 or whatever they are.
yes, yeah.
So I try to be ahead of the curve and be an early adopter, even though I was in my late-ish. And the interesting thing was that even the people younger than me, they didn't have computers. They had no interest in getting one. They thought it was a phase. I started with one with absolutely zero infrastructure with my work. And I really felt that even though maybe I was an early adopter, it was very difficult. So
And what made you want to adapt to computers early?
I could see that it was the future, and I thought it was ridiculous that so many people were sharing two computers. And also, I think that what I saw was exactly what digital can do. It does bring us together quicker, and that's good and that's bad.
Yes.
We have more access to sharing information, more access to things globally. And in the job I had with Bell, it was sales. So you needed to do a fair amount of research. So I
Mhm.
like the idea of having a little more control of my destiny and, not queuing to use a computer.
That was with Bell. Were with Rogers, tell me about that transition, what it was like to go from a non-digital world into a fully digital one.
So that was 10 years pass and everybody's full on with computers. And then I was with Rogers and in a similar capacity, job wise. And of course, computers had started to completely transform everything that we did in terms of communication, gathering information, and definitely in terms of people leadership.
Well, tell me more about that. What was it like from a leadership perspective?
The good and the bad. So some of the good things were, of course, now I'm talking to like towards the end of my career. So the good things were being able to use a calendar
Hmm.
and have your team be able to view. You're not available. It's blocked out. And I did take advantage of that when I had so many meetings and I had free time, I'd still block it out. So I would say that was a great tool to be able to use your computer as your time management, but also allocate setting some boundaries with your team that they couldn't just walk in the door.
Okay.
And I also see that as a downside because we've lost so much connectivity.
Even then.
losing the connectivity and trying to figure out how do you stay when you've got someone that's 10 feet away from you. I was in an office, they were in cubicles.
Mhm.
We called it the pit. So instead of walking 10 feet towards my office, they'd send me an email or they'd send me a text.
What was the contrast between, then and
So there's expedience,
Mhm.
which is great, but I think there is still a loss, and I'll use the word connectivity. The loss of the
Mhm.
connectivity was definitely a challenge.
So once it was lost, did you then, as a leader, strive to get it back?
I did. I mean, because honestly, it fundamentally changed the way we do everything with our work, with our friends, with our family, with our interests. So I did a few things differently with certain people that didn't do well with everything being digital. So there was a time where the team would write down all their activity, like literally handwrite it, and then it became using a CRM tool. So some people didn't like that. So a couple of reps, I actually started to do my one-on-ones with them, my leadership as part of my leadership. I'd go on a walk, I'd go do a workout, go for lunch, which sounds like, oh, big deal. That's a lot of people have a meeting that way. But I found that some people connected way better outside of office, outside of me going on and looking at the CRM and going, where are you with this account? But they did respond much better on a personal level.
You had to be adaptable and be able to change depending on who the person that you
Yes.
were leading was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? Even if you close your door, there's tons of distractions, even on a computer, or even when somebody's sitting in front of you and you're looking on the computer, there's distractions. People walk by and they wave, and then whoever's on your team doesn't feel like they have your time. So adapting to the people who didn't like all this digital was to get away from the environment totally. So out of the office, because I could easily go into a boardroom, but just get
Yes.
out of the environment.
And so from a leadership perspective, what was the age group of the people that you were leading?
I would say, I'm just thinking the youngest, let's say some in their late 20s up to late 40s.
Oh my goodness. So you were managing all those different the millennials, the Gen X's, and so different perspectives on life as
Very,
well.
very different. And the interesting thing is that my 3 top performers were females,
Yes.
all the same age in the late 40s, and one of them was exceptional. The other one absolutely couldn't do anything on the computer. I mean, just all the
That's not funny.
basics.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust to her because
Yes.
she was a top performer. So I aided her. I mean, I completely enabled the behavior because I thought she was much better suited. Get out of the office, get on the street. I'll enable you. I'll have assistants help you. So
So as a leader, you just had to constantly be pivoting in order to get the best out of your people,
yeah,
depending on where their capabilities were.
I consider myself, even though they call you a manager or at the end I was a director, it's still a leadership role. You're not supposed to be managing people. You're supposed to be helping them with their vision, and having a shared vision.
Thanks for sharing that. From a business perspective now, from the home front,
Mhm.
raising 2 sons who are now in their almost 30s and one in these. What was that raising your boys in
So
this time?
my eldest quickly adapted. By the time he was in grade 5, and so what is that, 10 years old, he was already creating websites for people. By the time he was or in high school, in like grade 11,
Mhm.
he had a almost 20,000 person blog on music. So he was very, very advanced and continues to be advanced and continues to like to communicate that way. And I'll tell you a story about my other son. So they're 18 months apart,
Yes.
um, but born in 94, 95. So my other son, when he was around 16 and way past the stage of playing with his friends, but he did say to me, it's just not fair when I was born. I wish I was born at the same time as you when I could just go knock on my friend's door and see if they're available. He goes, "Now we have to text, and then you have to wait for a text." He said, he just doesn't like it. So for him, he uses digital for posting because he's a photographer, so he uses
Hmm.
photography.
Wishes he could roll back the hands of time and go
Totally.
back to when life didn't have.
Instagram, all you'll find on his Instagram is pictures of, like, his photography, no communication. Yeah, and so they were very, very different.
Yes, and I think too, I think it's harder to raise kids now, I think, than it was even when we were raising kids because of the digital.
There was some tough life lessons over the years with especially my oldest, where the communication with friend groups was on text, with girlfriends on text,
Mhm,
and I definitely had to be pretty firm about certain things that you don't put on text, certain things you don't put on social media, Instagram or Facebook.
mhm.
And we're not necessarily equipped for all that because it was still new for us.
Right. We're still learning as we go, and it's changing all the time.
Changing, and it's also, it's scary, kind of scary, and then what is actually real?
So, to help other parents whose children may be younger than your two boys, what are a couple of examples of things that you would do differently, knowing what you know now?
So we were fortunate that a lot of their homework and I'm not talking post-secondary, very little homework was done on a computer. So we were very fortunate that way. And what was done on a computer was great. Like business courses, you'd have to do your presentation in PowerPoint. So they were learning all of that.
Hmm.
I wasn't faced with that.
Hmm.
But what I would say, and I know it's different, is the use of mobile phones for anything. I would probably have changed my behaviors around that with my kids.
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, I think I waited till they were in grade 8 and grade 9, and I wish I had waited longer. I wish I had more restrictions on their phones. And it's not because they were bad. They weren't. They were very good, especially the youngest who just doesn't like it. It's just, I think it's a distraction.
Hmm.
And I think it's a cop out. I'm not saying my kids copped out, but I think in general it's a cop out for children and adults, and do it too. I had a no phone, no electronics at the table. I've seen in restaurants a whole family on electronics. Kids at 10 years old, 9 years old with iPads as a form of entertainment. So my advice is really think about your own behaviors around what you're doing with your electronics, and it's old school parenting.
Hmm.
Right thing. Stay off
Yeah.
your electronics. Use, the time that you're in front of each other for communication, not to communicate with other people, and not, "I have to take this call."
Hmm.
Really? Do you? I mean, we don't. We know we don't.
Yes, and it's difficult because again, you had a very demanding career, and you needed to be in contact probably quite regularly with your team, and how did you manage that? It's so easy to do as I say, but not as I do, as parents, because I catch myself doing it.
As soon as we started working from home, March 2020,
Yes.
and my kids had been out of the house. My one son had been out of the house for 8 years, and he moved back into the house, and I had my setup in the kitchen. And he would say to me, "Mom, I heard you at 6 o'clock in the morning working, and it's 6 o'clock at night, and you're still at your computer." So, and I say, I've always worked a 12-hour or 15-hour day to be available, but it's wrong. So that was interesting. That stuck with me for a long time. And it also stuck with me and one of the reasons I wanted to retire. But I was always available based on what my team needed. I had some early risers. Some of them woke up at 5:30 in the morning and would contact me, and others that would go to 11. And right or wrong, I responded. I also had a team in Toronto, so I had that 3-hour gap. And I needed to be available because, as anybody knows who's worked with a company that's based in Ontario, they don't understand the 3-hour difference. So you need to be available. And sometimes it was really important. I mean, I found myself working before I even got out of bed on my phone because I was dealing with anything that was coming up on the national level.
It's so difficult to say to our kids, "Don't do this," when we're doing it. and they just learn from what they see. It's just such a challenge that way.
Yeah. And everybody has an opinion that millennials don't work. And I guess you could say my oldest is a millennial, just turning 31. I guess Jackson is my youngest is also.
Yes.
But I find that they do work and it doesn't even bother them as much. Like because my oldest is in school, plus working as a manager full time, plus extremely active playing sports. And he's prepared to be online till whenever hours of the day. I Is that from me working a 12-hour shift that he saw a 12-hour day, which he saw
Mhm.
during the pandemic? Or is that just something they are so accustomed to?
So before we started talking live, you were telling me about your mom who is in her early 90s and how difficult it is for her to survive without knowing computers and how it affects us all that way too.
Yeah, it really does. So as an example, I mean, she's still at her age, still very capable of doing things. She likes to be in front of the teller. She pays her bills on the phone. But when it comes to appointments, the dentist connects with me. I've asked the dentist to include one of my sisters on it. So there's two of us, and they're not efficient enough. They haven't done that. So the dentist connects with me about the appointment. Then I got to go to my mom and connect with her. Then I got to go back. And it's just so something that's supposed to be efficient isn't efficient.
Yeah.
And they phone sometimes, and then sometimes they don't. So
Hmm.
they're asking me to confirm an appointment, but then they phone her, and then sometimes she changes it. And I don't want her to, I'm trying to help her, so I don't make it a big
Yeah.
deal with her.
As parents, we're caught in between, aren't we, with our parents? And
Yeah.
thinking back to the seeing people in the restaurant and talking on their phones, and so families are there together, but they're not. They're in their own little world, so they're really alone together.
Mhm.
That's why I created the game Now You're Talking as a simple way to get people talking again, because it does bother me when I see that exact same thing. And what something that you said earlier, how you needed to have that conversation with your sons about what to do, how to engage on with text and with other people. Did you have those conversations? Were they open conversations with them? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think about 20 years ago, I would say there was a whole that was really when Facebook was being used by that generation, the ones who are around 30 now. A couple of the girls got in trouble on Facebook because they did silly things posting, or they didn't necessarily do it on Facebook. They might have text a picture of themselves to a friend, male or female, and then it ended up on Facebook. So that did happen to some of my kids, a few of my kids' acquaintances and
Hmm.
friends. So it was a really good wake up call to start the hardcore educating about what to do, what not to do. It gets you in trouble. It's almost like they think they're standing in front of someone when they text or post a picture and they're just showing them because they consider that these are their friends
Yes.
when it's the world, and we know now. It's
Yes.
in a cloud, it's in China. I mean, it's all over, like, it's in
Yes. Anywhere.
everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. And that's been an evolution too, hasn't it? To really understand that
Yes.
and to have had people go through these dangerous times and for us to see the harm that it can do.
And
So,
so that part is hard, and then the other thing, you did ask me a question, what I would do differently. So when my oldest was 16, he was in a relationship with someone who lived in the US,
mhm,
and he went to go see her, and because he has his blog, he needed to have all his access to everything. So he took his phone, his Mac, and an iPad. And they were actually not going to let him go to the States because they thought, why do you have all this stuff? Are you planning on moving there and working there? So that was really interesting.
that's that isn't yes.
So, and he might have been actually a little older. So he had to take his school transcript to say that he was still in high school because they actually didn't let him on the plane on one trip. So
Yeah.
they imagine what it'd be like today.
Yes, yeah. And that was sort of before people were working from home and that was more the norm.
Yeah.
So, so what I would like to do, Diana, is ask you a few questions from my board game. Now you're talking,
Okay.
and it's just an easy way and fun way for families and friends and parents of children to get talking again. So maybe because we've been talking about your career, can you tell us what's a highlight in your career? What was a highlight?
I definitely think that the leadership part, I had a very strong team. We were very successful, one of the most successful markets in all the country. And so that was a highlight. And when I retired, there were tears. People were going to miss me because this is what they would say afterwards was we knew that some things that Diana would ask us to do, she couldn't control, but she always presented it that she cared. I cared about the impact,
Yes.
and I was basically sometimes just towing the company line, and I can't do anything about it. So that was the difference. I had empathy to how it affects them as opposed to other leaders that were the comments would be, well, they just don't care. They just tell us what to do.
That goes back to what we said initially, though. It seems to me that you looked at each person individually, figured out what their strengths were, and then adapted to those strengths and got rid of the roadblocks along the way to enable them to be the most successful.
Enabling and taking down barriers, I would say,
Mhm.
but still creating boundaries because
Yes,
as a people leader, you have to do that. And I had so many skip reports. So I had a management team and then they had reps under them. So the skip reports weren't supposed to come to me, but they would. And then I'd have to say, well, what did your manager say?
and what's a skip
Oh, a
report?
skip
Who does
report would be so I'm a director, then manager, and then I had 4 managers under me, and those 4 managers had a team.
I see?
So they were all my team, but as a skip report, they're not supposed to come to me unless it's been approved. I respect the managers enough that I would say, "Does your manager know?"
I see. So it normally it would skip you and go,
They would normally just go to their manager. They
oh, I
should go to
see.
the manager, but they might say, "Oh, the manager's not available," and so that was something that was a respect to the team, to the
Oh,
management.
and it's interesting to me because as old as time, everybody wants to be seen and they want to know that somebody cares.
That's what it is, yeah.
And so in this digital era, that's being eroded. So that basic human um, drive is being eroded
Mhm.
and where we are. Could you name one thing in your life that you want to change?
That's a hard one because I retired 3.5 years ago. I'm still reflecting on things. Maybe finding something else to do. I'm really active, and I garden and I cook so sports-wise active, maybe something creative.
Okay.
I would change that to find something creative to do.
And what do you is some that just leads me to another question. What did you love to do that was creative when you were a kid?
I love doing art. I really liked it. So I always think one day I'd just get a big canvas, clear out a room in the house, get a canvas and get some acrylics and just do something, paint. Or, and I've said this to my oldest son, and he says, "Why didn't you get in a coloring book?" He goes, "I have a coloring book." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I have an adult coloring book." And when I feel like being creative, that's what he does. I thought it was
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah, that is neat. It's a form of meditation.
Yeah,
So what's stopping you from
nothing.
going to get that canvas and your acrylics?
Just myself, and I could start with a coloring book.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be following with you on that one.
Okay.
What shoulds have you been told that are more about the person who said them than they are about you?
I That's a good question because when you retire, people say, "You should have a purpose." And so what's my purpose? 'Cause I'm doing exactly what I said I was gonna do, spend more time with my family, my kids and my mom. I'm in a relationship, and spend more time on my health and fitness. And also be able to garden and not hire someone to do yard work. I love doing yard work, weirdly. So that's a definite, you should have a purpose. And I am I'm proud of my purpose. I'm also in my friend group, I was the first to retire, and I'm still really close to some of my high school friends, and I get comments all the time as, "You were the first to retire. You were this. You shouldn't retire." So there was a lot. "You're too young. You should keep working."
I like that. Well, I can ask you a high school question because they're my favorite.
Mhm.
What's a lesson that you learned in high school that you still apply to your life today?
Okay, a little bit of FOMO. So when I say fear of missing out, and I did this in my career, and I did it during high school. I was on every sports team I could be on and every committee I could be on. And as soon as I was old enough, I had to be the chairman of the committee. I couldn't just be on the dance committee, I had to be the chairman. I couldn't just be on the grad committee, and I was always the chairman. So, I always wanted to be in that leadership role, and of course, I did that in my career. I got to the highest level I could get in BC without having to move, and I also every board I was on or every committee, I was always the lead, or if I wasn't the lead, I was asked to be the lead, and I would say no if it was too much for me.
Okay.
So and when I say lead, I mean, like, old school, like president or chair. So those are definitely things that's ingrained, that's still me.
Okay, well, that leads me to another question. So, thinking about your birth order, being I know of one of four daughters,
Mhm.
how does your birth order contribute to that? Let's say, like, if we were to connect the dots, how does your birth order connect to your drive to always be the leader?
I really think in many ways I take on even though I'm the second of 4, I take on the eldest role. I think I am much more in tune to the needs of my family and my immediate family, or the family I grew into, my mom and my 2 younger sisters. I think,
It,
yeah, I definitely take on that role of being the go-to person.
you just naturally
I
did that.
naturally rolled into it, and my older sister is naturally gifted in certain areas, like paperwork, and she can have all that. When it comes to having, a father who passed and a elderly mother, she can do that role, but when it comes to more like the go-to person, I take on the elder sister role.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. I always think, those things that happen in the impressionable years are now you're talking starts there. So it gives people an opportunity to talk about things that we don't normally talk about, but we have in common.
Mhm,
Most of us have gone to high school and our experiences are as different as individual as we are, but
mhm.
somehow we take it forward with us into our adult life.
I was just thinking even the other thing is that I had to be the captain of every team.
That goes from your
Being as the center on a basketball team, I always want to be the center, which is, just a thing.
So if you were to connect the dots and go back, would that stem from your family? Always having to be in that, not being the oldest sister, but being the oldest sister?
Yeah, and wanting it. Also, I was always a keener, and I've never ever been competitive against other people in my career, or in sports, and unless on my team. Individually, obviously, I was a competitor, but I did it for me. I didn't do it because I wanted to beat anybody. I did it for me because it's
It was
ingrained in me to be
okay. And
to be
internally,
it's ingrained to be a
is
leader,
this
the best.
okay? That's so interesting. Just a couple more questions, and let's see. How has adversity changed you?
I think adversity makes you really think about who you are as a person. So a lot of self-reflection, how you want to deal with adversity, how I personally want to deal with adversity.
Mhm.
And also as a mother, always teaching your kids the balance. a balance in life and how to deal with adversity themselves. I'm trying to think of a specific example, but I don't really have one.
What is your superpower, and when did you discover that?
Superpower. Well, I think it's leadership. I think it's,
Tell me more.
and that's just something innate, as I said before. By the time, not during in elementary school, because you're still figuring yourself out, but always wanted to be not in charge in the power way, but in charge in the way of being the person that everyone went to, the person who led the sports team, the person who took charge on a committee, as an example.
Yes.
So I would say that would be a superpower, is the ability to be able to do that.
To go into that leadership role.
Mhm.
And it sounds to me that as a leader, though you're able to pivot. It seems to me that just from our conversation today, what makes you a good leader is your ability to um, step back if you need to and let somebody else take that leadership role in that moment so they can be the best that they can be.
For sure. And I hired people over the years, and when when you do that, you check them out, you phone their past employer. I often would phone actually or contact someone on that they worked with, a former team member, and
Mhm.
get their impression. And I had comments as a hiring manager where, "Oh, if you hire that person, they'll try to get your job." And that never would stop me, because I thought, well, if they're better than me at some things, most of the time someone on your team is better. That's awesome. I was always like, yay, I've got someone way better at this than me, and they can take that on as part of their development.
Great. Yeah. So you weren't intimidated by that. You were inspired by it.
I was never intimidated. I mean, the only thing that ever intimidated me at work was when people and there was one person who wasn't my equivalent, but, would try to sabotage, and yes, I mean, that's normal. That's always in every job.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for answering those questions. So, going back to the digital era, we talked about who you are as a mom, who you are as a leader, who you are as a daughter, all these different aspects and how you're affected in the digital era. What are some words of wisdom that you can share to other parents that they may be struggling with at this moment? The digital era, raising children, being a daughter of an aging parent. I mean, we're sort of touching on all sorts of
Mhm.
different areas, but in the center of it, we're all trying to find our way through all of this.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of
and
complexities.
um, I think we have to look at this digital era as the benefits of expedience, sharing information, connectivity in a different way. Access, we have so much access. So those
Mhm.
are all the positives. And looking at it from the other point of view is, I would say, get in front of people way more than we are today, face to face.
Face to face.
That includes picking up the phone with your kids, not texting.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that you have to demonstrate the how to use social media, how to use anything to do with your computers as a means of getting somewhere, but not the only way of getting there.
Mhm.
Because I think there's so much anxiety that we haven't even talked about depression and anxiety that comes with being in this computer world.
And how would you counteract that?
Well, shutting down. I don't know what's going on in the workplace these days, but I would say something I never did, I wish I did, was turning off, not answering emails for an hour. I do put my phone on silent, and sometimes I go, "Oh, where's my phone?" And someone will say, "I'll phone you." I never have my phone on. I never have it on. Unless I'm waiting for a call and I don't have my earbuds in, I never turn it on. So a lot more restrictions with your own personal restrictions, and how are you using.
Just to be more aware
Mhm.
and try to be more present
Yes. And
in
again, more face to face, picking up the
more face to
phone.
face. Are you finding that younger people are less likely to pick up the phone
Yeah.
and and more concerned about? being in front of other people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, both my kids, they're actually moving away from texting with me. So
Okay.
we try to talk more. And I've even heard my oldest, who's the one who's more into the digital, he's even said, he goes, "Oh, I'm so tired of texting."
Really?
And I am tired. I'm not tired of texting. And sometimes I get a text and it's like, why do you want to tell me something that is about, okay, let's just say like 6 centimeters long text. And I don't even read them anymore.
It's too long, too much, too impersonal. So, so what do you hope for, our kids down the road in this digital era, beyond it? It's going to continue to evolve and to grow. But what do you hope, starting from here, where we're going?
So in terms of using it as a form of communication, I hope it changes. That it's not all texts or emails. Again, more face to. I think it can become that. I don't think we need to continue to on this path of only communicating electronically. And also, it's early days in terms
Hmm.
of what's going to be next. I mean, are there going to be computer chips, in our brains? Right now, we can tell Siri to do so much.
We don't know where it's going.
No. uh, And one thing I do like is the problems with if you whatever kind of a music system you have at home. Sometimes I command it to do something I have 3 floors in my home. On the middle floor, I'll command it and nothing's happening. And it's on another floor. Another system has heard it. So we changed all that. So we've got Google, Alexa, Siri, like we changed it so each floor has a different system because different music would come on.
Right. I know.
Different speakers would come on and it'd be my music playing in one floor where my son is and etc.
Yes. Yeah. Our walls have ears these days.
I know. Turn
Well,
your phone over.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom, and as a leader, as a mother, as a daughter, and thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. All the best.
What a powerful conversation with Diana Davies. Her reflections on leadership, parenting, and the digital world remind us that while technology will always evolve, the need for human connection remains constant. From teaching kids responsible digital habits to recognizing how our own behaviors shape theirs, Diana's insights challenge us to slow down, reflect, and stay intentional. If this episode gave you something to think about, please share it with a friend and subscribe to Now You're Talking on YouTube and leave us a review wherever you listen. For more ways to spark meaningful conversations, visit us at nowyourtalkinggain.com. You will find all the links in the show notes below. Until next time, let the conversations begin. Now you're talking.